Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt the energy shift? No one said anything, no insults, no arguments, just a pause. A glance held a second too long, a smile that didn't reach their eyes, a silence that felt heavier than words. That is what silent hatred looks like. See, most enemies don't raise their voice. They don't declare war. They just observe, judge, withdraw. And yet you feel it, the tension, the coldness, the invisible wall that separates you from them. And what's worse, it often comes from the people closest to you. Co-workers, friends, even family. Now, most people ask the wrong question: why do they hate me? But the better question is this: how will I respond? Because that's where your power lies. You could fight back. You could call them out. You could mirror their bitterness. Or you could choose the Stoic path, the path that doesn't require revenge. Just mastery, not noise but presence, not defense but discipline. Stoic philosophy teaches us something radical. You don't hurt those who hate you by reacting. You hurt them by becoming untouchable, by being so focused, so steady, so self-possessed that their hate has nowhere to land. So if you're tired of being emotionally hijacked by silent enemies, stay with me. This video isn't about retaliation, it's about transformation, because the most powerful way to respond to unseen enemies is to rise in silence and become someone they can never reach. People who secretly hate you don't always want to destroy you. They want to distract you. They want your peace. They want your attention. But more than anything, they want a reaction. See the people who throw shade, who take those subtle jabs in meetings, who smile while slipping in passive-aggressive comments. They're not just being rude. They're trying to pull you into their chaos. They thrive on drama. And if they can shake your mood, if they can make you flinch, they've already won. But here's the twist. Non-reaction is not weakness. It's power. Think about it. Let's say you're in a meeting. A co-worker makes a sly remark, a dig disguised as a joke. Everyone hears it. The room goes quiet. All eyes turn to you. Now, most people would feel the pressure to respond, maybe snap back, maybe defend themselves. But you simply look them in the eye, say nothing, keep your posture steady, then calmly return to the topic at hand. In that moment, something shifts, because they came prepared for a battle and you gave them stillness. And that stillness, it's disarming, it's unsettling, it leaves them exposed. This is where Stoic wisdom comes alive. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." You see, our power doesn't come from control over others. It comes from control over ourselves. When you don't react, you send a message. You don't own my energy. I choose where it goes. And that's a message louder than any comeback. Now ask yourself this. How often have you wasted hours replaying someone's words in your head, crafting imaginary arguments, wondering what you should have said? That's emotional slavery. But when you respond with composure, when you let silence speak, you rise above the noise. Your calmness becomes your armor. Your stillness becomes your sword. Because people expect anger. They expect ego. But when you give them presence instead of panic, you turn the game around. And suddenly you're not just protecting your peace. You're owning the room without saying a word. There's a quote by Marcus Aurelius that should be carved into the mind of anyone striving for inner strength. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Think about that for a moment. It's not what happens to you that hurts. It's the meaning you attach to it, the story you tell yourself about it, and more importantly, how you let that story control you. You see, most people think emotional control means denial, shutting down, ignoring, pretending to be okay. But Stoicism offers something different, something much deeper. It doesn't tell you to feel nothing. It tells you to feel fully, but to remain the master of what you feel. Because here's the truth. The person who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled. Let that sink in. In a world that runs on triggers, on outrage, comparison, gossip, what if your emotions weren't on a leash for others to pull? What if your peace was self-generated, not borrowed from how others treat you? Now imagine this. Someone insults you publicly. They question your worth, twist your words, maybe even try to humiliate you. You feel that sting because you're human. But then you pause, you breathe, and instead of reacting from that wound, you choose your response from your center. That is power. That's not weakness. That's not passivity. That is strength in its rarest, purest form. Because while they're trying to drag you into their storm, you become the mountain that refuses to move. Emotional control is not about suppressing. It's about directing. It's the ability to say, yes, I feel this. Yes, this hurts. But no, you don't get to steer me with it. This is the kind of strength that makes people nervous, especially those who depend on your reaction to validate their own drama. Because when you stay calm, they lose their script. They lose control. They're left throwing punches at the air while you walk forward untouched. And let's be honest, how many times have you regretted a moment where you lost control? Said something in anger, made a decision in fear, reacted when you should have reflected. We've all been there. But emotional mastery, it gives you back your time, your dignity, your direction. It makes you dangerous in the best way. Not because you hurt people, but because no one can throw you off course. So here's the question. Are you living at the mercy of your emotions, or are you shaping them into fuel for your purpose? Because in the philosophy of Stoicism, real strength doesn't look like rage. It looks like presence. It looks like someone who can walk through the fire without letting it change who they are. That's what emotional control offers you. Not a life without pain, but a life where pain no longer defines your path. And in that calm, in that clarity, you become someone truly untouchable. Sometimes the loudest thing in the room is your silence. Not because you're cold, not because you're weak, but because your stillness makes people confront something they're not ready to face, their own chaos. You see, when someone is at peace with themselves, they radiate calm. They don't need to raise their voice, defend every opinion, or chase validation. And that, believe it or not, intimidates people, especially those who thrive on drama. Here's what no one tells you. Your composure will often trigger those who are internally restless. They won't always lash out directly. Sometimes it's subtle. A friend might say, "Must be nice to be that lucky." A co-worker might roll their eyes when you stay calm during conflict. A relative might mock your boundaries or your peace as being too distant or too quiet. But you know what they're really saying. Your peace reminds me that I don't have any. Because stillness is a mirror. And when someone looks into your calm presence, they're not just seeing you. They're seeing everything inside themselves that feels loud, unsettled, and out of control. Now, imagine this: a friend, clearly jealous, throws a jab cloaked in a smile. They say, "Wow, must be nice to get all the breaks." You could correct them, you could defend yourself. You could list the sacrifices, the effort, the sleepless nights they never saw. But instead, you just smile softly and move on. You don't take the bait. You don't lower your frequency to match theirs. And in that one small moment, you've disarmed them completely because you didn't give them what they wanted, a reaction. That's the paradox of calm. It looks passive, but it's powerful. It speaks without shouting. It teaches without preaching. It shakes people not because it attacks, but because it reflects. You didn't need to expose their insecurity. They saw it themselves in your silence. And that, my friend, is exactly why your peace is your power. But here's the deeper truth: their discomfort is not your responsibility. You don't exist to make others feel comfortable with their own lack of discipline, direction, or emotional regulation. You exist to stay true to yourself. And when you do that, people will react in all kinds of ways, some with admiration, others with judgment, even resentment. But those reactions are not about you, they're about them. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology gave it a name. They knew that stillness is not the absence of feeling, it's the presence of mastery. Marcus Aurelius didn't tell us to avoid life's difficulties. He told us to meet them with clarity, so we don't become tangled in other people's noise. So the next time someone tries to rattle you, pause. Look inward. Ask yourself, is this really about me? And if it's not, don't carry it. Let them sit with their own discomfort, because your silence, it's not empty. It's full of restraint, of strength, of self-respect. And for those who haven't done the work to find that within themselves your stillness is a mirror they can't bear to look into. So stay steady, because the most powerful people in any room aren't the ones talking the most. They're the ones who don't need to say a word to be understood. Let's get one thing straight. Calmness is not weakness. It's not apathy. It's not avoidance. And it's definitely not surrender. True stillness, the kind that holds its ground in chaos, is forged in the fires of discipline. You see, it's easy to react. It's easy to yell back, slam a door, fire off that angry message, or storm out of the room. But staying still, remaining composed, when everything around you is unraveling, that takes power, real power. In a world where people are constantly triggered, constantly provoked, constantly reacting to everything, the person who can remain still becomes the one who commands the room. Think about it. When a storm hits, who do we look to? Not the loudest, not the most dramatic. We look to the one who remains grounded. We look to the calm presence, the anchor in the middle of the storm. Stillness is not the absence of feeling. It's the presence of mastery. And that mastery doesn't come from suppressing your emotions. It comes from understanding them, from sitting with them, from choosing again and again not to let them hijack your actions. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and a Roman emperor, said this: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Stillness is not what happens when nothing bothers you. It's what happens when everything tries to and you choose not to bend." Let me ask you this. How often have you regretted staying calm? And how often have you regretted reacting too quickly, too emotionally, too loudly? The truth is, every time we hold on to our composure in the face of chaos, we don't just protect our peace, we reclaim our power. Now that doesn't mean you become emotionally numb. It means you stop giving chaos free rent in your mind. You stop letting other people's storms drown your clarity, because the disciplined mind doesn't get dragged into drama. It observes, it evaluates, and it chooses whether to engage or to walk away. So when someone tries to bait you, when they poke at your patience, stir the pot, or try to knock you off center, remember the moment you choose not to react, you just flipped the power dynamic. They lost control the second you didn't lose yours. And in that quiet moment where you say nothing, do nothing but remain centered, you've already won. You don't need to fight fire with fire. You extinguish fire with presence. It's ironic, isn't it? In a world where everyone is screaming for attention, the most powerful voice is the one that doesn't raise itself. It simply stands. So here's your reminder. You don't have to respond to every insult. You don't have to match every outburst. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Your silence can say, "I'm not here to be pulled into your chaos." Your stillness can say, "I've done the work to stay above this." And that is a weapon no one sees coming, because the more you master yourself, the less the world can shake you. So let the noise rage around you. Let the drama unfold. You don't have to answer every knock at your door. You only have to protect your peace. And sometimes, the greatest defense is simply staying still. Let's get something clear right from the start. You don't have to react to every insult. You don't have to defend yourself every time someone throws shade questions your worth or tries to provoke a response. Not every jab deserves your attention. Not every insult requires a reply. And not every battle is yours to fight. In fact, the strongest move you can make is sometimes no move at all. This is what we call intelligent detachment. It's not about being cold, it's about being free. Free from the need to explain yourself. Free from the trap of being emotionally hijacked. Free from wasting your energy on people who aren't worth the rent they're trying to take up in your mind. Let me give you an example. Imagine a coworker, let's call him Greg. Greg loves to throw subtle jabs during meetings. He comments on your tone. He mocks your ideas. He does it with a smile, but you know what he's doing. And every time he tries to stir the pot, you take a deep breath and you don't bite. You stay grounded. You stay calm. You stay focused. Now here's the truth. Greg wants your reaction because your reaction gives him control. But when you don't respond, when you don't even flinch, suddenly the power dynamic shifts. His weapon becomes useless because an insult only works if you pick it up. It only sticks if you let it in. You see, intelligent detachment isn't about pretending you don't feel anything. It's about choosing what deserves your emotional investment. It's not apathy, it's clarity. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. But if they just insult me, that's their problem." That's the essence of Stoic wisdom. You can walk through the fire and not carry the smoke with you. The modern world tells you to clap back, to prove your point, to show them they can't walk all over you. But what if true strength is in not needing to prove anything at all? What if your greatest flex is staying silent while they scream for a reaction that never comes? Here's the thing, when you're emotionally reactive, you're easy to manipulate. But when you're emotionally centered, you become unshakable. And that kind of self-mastery that rattles people more than any comeback ever could. So the next time someone throws a cheap shot your way, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is this someone I need to explain myself to? Or can I just keep walking head high, heart clear? Because when you detach with wisdom, not bitterness, but wisdom, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your power. Let them throw stones. You're building something. Let them whisper. You're working. Let them misunderstand you. You're growing. You don't need to carry every opinion, react to every slight, or fight every shadow. You don't have to harden your heart, just strengthen your boundaries, because freedom isn't about escaping people. It's about rising so high, their words can't reach you. Call to reflection. Have you been giving your energy to people who don't deserve your response? What would it feel like to choose peace over pride? Could this be your moment to walk away, not in defeat, but in dignity? Let this be your reminder. Not everything needs your reaction. Sometimes silence is the most intelligent response. Not because you don't care, but because you finally do about yourself. And that, my friend, is real freedom. There's a kind of strength that doesn't need to shout, a kind of power that doesn't come from status, money, or followers, but from integrity. True character is silent, steady, and absolutely unshakable. You see, when you live in alignment with your values, when your actions match your words and your words are rooted in truth, you become something rare. You become untouchable. Not because people stop trying to hurt you, but because nothing they say sticks. Because you're not hiding. You're not playing a role. You're not trying to impress anyone. And here's the truth. No one can shame you for living with integrity. You can't be manipulated when you're not pretending. You can't be blackmailed when you've already owned your truth. You can't be destroyed from the outside when your strength comes from within. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever noticed how much effort people put into tearing others down? Especially those who seem calm, grounded, or clear. It's because character makes people uncomfortable. Not the loud kind, but the quiet kind. The kind of person who doesn't react with drama or defensiveness, but simply stands firm in who they are. Think of someone like Marcus Aurelius. An emperor, yes, but more than that, a philosopher of discipline and inner alignment. He led a kingdom, yet still wrote to himself, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter." That's what we're talking about here. Not perfection, but alignment. The kind of alignment where your soul feels at peace at night. Because you didn't compromise who you are even when it was easier to bend. And that kind of peace, that's the ultimate freedom. Now let's get real. In today's world where image often wins over integrity and performance is mistaken for depth, being a person of substance isn't always glamorous. You may not be the loudest in the room. You may not get applause for doing the right thing when no one's watching. But here's what you do get. You get to walk away from toxic situations without guilt. You get to say no without needing to explain. You get to look yourself in the mirror and know you didn't betray your own values just to please someone else. Because people will try to test you. They'll provoke gossip, manipulate, especially when they realize they can't control you. But when you've built your identity on truth, you don't flinch. When the wind changes, you become the rock, and people can either lean on you or crash against you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone try to make you feel small? Use shame, guilt, or emotional pressure to get under your skin? But it didn't work. Why? Because you knew who you were. You had already done the work. That's what Stoic philosophy teaches us. Power isn't in domination, it's in discipline. Freedom isn't in doing whatever you feel, it's in standing for what matters, especially when it's hard. So if you've ever felt like the world wants you to bend, fake it, shrink, or explain yourself constantly, I want you to remember this. When you live in truth, you no longer need approval. You stop chasing acceptance and start radiating confidence. You stop seeking validation and start walking in purpose. And that is when you become unshakable, not because you never get hurt, but because even pain cannot move you from your path. So here's the challenge. Don't react to people who thrive on chaos. Don't compromise just to fit into a crowd that doesn't match your soul. Don't explain your values to people who have none. Just live them. Quietly, boldly, steadily. Because the person who stands tall in truth cannot be controlled. Final thought. True power doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from mastering yourself. When your character is unshakable, you become the calm in the storm, the one who can't be baited, the one they can't move. Not because you're cold, but because you are clear. And that, my friend, is when you truly become unstoppable. Not everyone who moves in silence is lost. Some are simply too focused building something real, while the rest are busy talking. In a world addicted to noise, validation, and constant proof, discipline doesn't shout. It doesn't brag. It doesn't ask for attention. It just shows up every day, even when no one's watching. That's the real power of silent discipline. It doesn't look impressive at first, but give it time and it becomes undeniable. Here's what most people don't realize. You don't have to post every step of your journey. You don't have to explain your goals. You don't even have to respond to the ones who doubt you. Why? Because results are louder than words. Progress whispers. At first, then suddenly becomes a roar no one can ignore. Think of this. While others are scrolling, you're studying. While they're talking about goals, you're working on yours. While they're trying to look successful, you're quietly becoming it. That's what discipline is. It's not glamorous, it's not always fun, but it's freedom. It's inner mastery, and it's a kind of strength that doesn't need an audience. Let me ask you something. Have you ever committed to something so deeply that even when no one clapped, you kept going? That's when you know it's not ego. It's not vanity, it's purpose. And the funny part, the moment you stop trying to prove yourself is often the moment you become unstoppable. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish." And he was right. Growth often looks like isolation. It looks like turning down easy pleasures for long-term gain. It looks like saying no when everyone else says yes. It's walking a different road and being okay if no one understands it. Because here's the truth. People will laugh until they can't, until they see the results of the work you did in silence, and by then they'll call you lucky. But you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck. It was discipline, quiet, consistent, powerful. Let's get practical. Think of the gym. The first few weeks, no one notices. You might even feel invisible. But months later, people start asking, "What's your secret?" You know what it was. You showed up on the days you didn't feel like it. You chose discipline over drama, action over excuses. Now apply that to your career, your finances, your healing journey, your relationships. Every area of life gets better when you stop needing praise for doing what must be done. Because true warriors don't fight to impress the crowd. They fight for a cause. And your cause is you, your future, your clarity, your peace. So don't be discouraged if your discipline feels unseen. The seed is always buried before it blooms. And sometimes the greatest flex is not proving them wrong. It's outgrowing the need to. Final thought. Be okay being underestimated. Be okay being doubted. Because discipline doesn't bloom in applause. It grows in silence. When you're building something great, you don't need noise. You need focus. You need patience. You need to remember those who are silently disciplined become impossible to ignore when the time comes. So ask yourself, am I building to impress or am I building to last? Have you ever noticed? Some people secretly root for your downfall. They smile on the surface, but deep down, they're hoping you'll stumble, fail, disappear, because your resilience threatens their comfort. Your potential makes their excuses harder to defend. But here's the beautiful part. Every time you rise after being knocked down, you take away one of their weapons. They expected you to break, but instead, you built yourself from the ruins. That's what pain can become, not a prison, but a forge. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius once said, "The obstacle is the way," and that wasn't just poetic, it was practical, because life doesn't just test you, it teaches you. That heartbreak, it taught you boundaries. That betrayal, it taught you discernment. That failure, it taught you how to start again, wiser, but only if you don't run from it. Only if you're brave enough to sit with the fire and let it burn away what no longer serves you. You see, suffering isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's the invitation to rise, to grow, to become the version of yourself that comfort could never produce. Let me ask you something. Who would you be today if nothing had ever gone wrong? You wouldn't be as strong. You wouldn't be as thoughtful. You wouldn't be you, because growth doesn't come from things going right. It comes from making something right. After everything has gone wrong, and when people throw doubt, criticism, or hate your way, you have two choices. Let it bury you, or let it fuel you. Fuel your self-respect. Fuel your determination. Fuel your next chapter. They wanted to break you, but instead, they built your backbone, and the more they try, the stronger you get, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. So next time someone underestimates you, next time life pushes you to the edge, remember this. The fire that was meant to consume you can be the same fire that transforms you. You are not here to collapse. You are here to convert pain into purpose. Final reflection. Your power isn't in avoiding suffering. It's in using it. Every scar can become a symbol, not of what hurt you, but of what shaped you. So don't hide the pain. Don't let it define you. Refine it, transform it, and walk forward with the quiet strength of someone who's been through the storm and learned how to dance in the rain. Here's something people rarely admit. The person who hates you doesn't fear your anger. They expect it. They feed on it. What they truly fear is your forgiveness, because forgiveness means they no longer matter. They can't disturb your mind. They can't control your reactions. They're not even renting space in your head anymore. And that is the deepest blow you can ever deliver. You see, many people think forgiveness is about excusing behavior. It's not. It's about releasing yourself from the invisible chain that keeps you tied to the one who hurt you. When you hold a grudge, you're still carrying them with you, still replaying the insult, still reliving the pain, still handing them your energy day after day. That's not strength, that's emotional imprisonment. But when you forgive genuinely, not performatively, you say, "You no longer define my story." You take back your inner space. You reclaim your peace. And you begin to move forward without dragging their shadow behind you. It's one of the boldest things you can do. Not because it's easy, but because it's rare. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." So don't match their hate. Don't mirror their bitterness. You don't rise by becoming like them. You rise by becoming untouchable. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without pain. It means learning the lesson without carrying the burden. Let me ask you something. How much space are you giving to people who don't deserve your time, your energy, or your peace? What would happen if you cut that cord? What would happen if you simply let them go? Not for their sake, but for yours. The one who forgives walks lighter, sleeps better, lives freer. And to the one who wronged you, it's confusing, because they wanted you broken. They wanted to leave a mark. But you turned that scar into wisdom. That's power, quiet, sacred power. So today, if there's someone still lingering in your heart through anger, know this. Forgiveness isn't surrender, it's sovereignty. Sometimes the loudest victory makes no sound at all. You don't shout, you don't explain, you don't lower yourself to their level. You just stand calm, clear, unmoved. And that stillness, that quiet discipline, it terrifies those who tried to shake you, because the greatest power isn't found in reaction, it's found in presence. In being so grounded, so rooted in who you are that nothing and no one can pull you out of alignment. You don't fight with noise. You win with unshakable character. This isn't weakness. This is strength wrapped in grace. It's the art of saying nothing but saying everything through how you carry yourself. It's the strength of not needing to be right, because truth doesn't beg for approval. As the Stoics would put it, you don't defeat your enemies by destroying them. You defeat them by becoming someone they can never touch. So let them talk. Let them scheme. Let the world spin in noise and chaos. You just keep building, keep walking, keep rising in silence, because in the end, the one who says the least often ends up with the most.